Can you believe it? The Mexican government is actually considering banning beauty pageants in Mexico forever and ever and ever. Who would ever thought that a country that has been celebrating feminine beauty for decades, maybe centuries, is actually thinking of considering banning pageants altogether? I mean, to me, that's like unbelievable. So to be more specific, Mexico is considering to hold a parliamentary vote to ban all beauty pageants in Mexico, as the Mexican Gender Equality Commission consider all beauty pageants as a form of symbolic violence against women. During a virtual meeting that took place a few days ago, the Gender Equality Commission of Chamber of Deputies said that its members were working on 3 aspects. Now, let's talk about number 1, to include symbolic and media violence. I mean, I would think that the committee members are educated and enlightened enough to think that seeing a beautiful girl running or walking in public does not necessarily provoke violence. I mean, you have to be really demented or psychotic or emotionally dysfunctional to actually believe that a beautiful woman can cause violence. Gender parity reforms. So basically, the committee is suggesting that beauty pageants are actually making women less progressive, maybe, or less competitive compared to men in general. And number 3, consolidate the concept of re-victimization. I mean, those are like loaded words. Consolidate the concept of re-victimization. So basically, the committee is trying to redefine the word victim or victimization. So, I mean, for decades or even for centuries, women have been competing in beauty pageants. They compete out of their own volition, out of their own will. They are never forced or coerced to join these pageants. They participate, they compete in their own free will. So I've never heard of any beauty contestant who actually considers herself as a victim simply because she joined a pageant. I mean, the members also expressed their objection towards any such form of competition in which beauty or physical appearance of women, girls, or adolescents is evaluated in full or in part based on sexist stereotypes. Hello. In order for a contestant to win a pageant, she has to look her best. Duh. I don't understand what the problem is with this committee members. I mean, come on. Okay, fine, granted, there are many pageants out there. There are pageants that focus primarily on looks. There are pageants that focus primarily on talent. There are pageants that focus primarily on intelligence and personality. Or there are pageants that combine all aspects of a woman. So, but for pageants that focus primarily on looks, let's say supermodel looks or whatever, then why is it a problem for these committee members? I mean, first of all, beauty pageants are private entities. So as private entities, the owner has every right to establish its own rules as to how a contestant or how a winner qualifies or is selected. So I think the committee members
are mostly unattractive, maybe middle-aged women who probably have never dated in their lives, or probably who have been dumped by their boyfriends or their husbands. And
that's why they feel very bitter about beauty pageants. I mean, I'm just generalizing, but I think that's a valid response. I don't have any problems with pageants for little girls that usually use very light makeup. I do have a big issue with girl pageants where the contestants are actually made up to look like hookers or prostitutes or middle-aged women. Now, I have to agree with the committee members who are against adolescent or teen pageants, but to a certain degree. I mean, I like Miss Teen USA. I've always watched it since, the early days from the early 1980s. And I do like the fact that they also had to compete in the swimsuit competition. But because of the Me Too movement, Miss Teen USA had to eliminate the swimsuit competition in favor of a more appropriate athletic wear competition, which is okay by me. No, I don't think teen pageants should be banned because, I mean, teenager girls love to dress up. They love to shine on stage. They love that feeling of being and looking like a princess. I would definitely encourage her to compete in teen pageants because I want what's best for her. And being the best for her would also include a venue or a way to help herself, to help improve her communication skills, help improve her personality, her intelligence. However, if a pageant's intention is to sexualize adolescent girls, then to me, that would be a problem, a big, big problem. Yeah. The commission also mentioned that media violence is also a form of symbolic aggression expressed through the publication or dissemination of stereotype symbols, images, messages, and ideas through the mass and electronic means of communication. So what does that mean? They're saying that if you post, if a young girl or a young woman, a beauty queen, posts an image of her on her social media, be it Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, or whatever, that would automatically be considered as a form of symbolic aggression. Basically, I guess what they're trying to say is that when a young girl or a young woman who is emotionally vulnerable or who probably lacks a lot of self-confidence sees those type of images, I guess she may feel perhaps inferior to these women or to these images that she sees on social media, and she tries to compare herself to her, and then she starts feeling, oh well, I'm not as pretty as she is. I feel fat. I look fat. I feel depressed. I feel ugly. I feel horrible. I'll never be able to look or to feel like that beautiful woman that I see on social media. So basically, the commission is saying, we believe that beauty contests are events which show women through social cultural standards and under gender stereotypes as an instrument to maintain the concept of a female body as an object. This limits the personal development of the participants. So that's exactly what they're saying. So I wonder how many of these commission members have actually attended beauty pageants or have actually gotten to know the directors or contestants of beauty pageants. I mean, if they really spend their time, let's say, maybe they should attend a beauty camp someday and find out for themselves exactly how these pageant contestants are trained or how many hours they have to practice walking, sashaying on stage, posing in their swimsuit, posing in their evening gowns, and also, of course, the hours and hours and hours of workshop necessary to improve their social skills, their communication skills, their interview skills, so forth and so on. So I don't understand how or why these commission members think that pageants actually diminish the talents or the capabilities of a woman. I mean, to me, that's pretty much absurd, really. So a deputy from the state of Morena, Beatriz Rojas Martinez, said that beauty pageants and competitions are held annually in the country where gender roles are reproduced. She considered that these pageants, organized and financed by state governments to supposedly promote tourism, traditions, and customs, are a contradiction. Hence, they added that the pageants will not be able to use public resources, official promotion, subsidies, and any kind of economic or institutional support for carrying out these kinds of shows. So what this deputy is arguing is that the country or the state will have to stop sponsoring and financing these pageants who are supposedly promoting tourism, in the country. Fine. I mean, if this, that would have to depend on the state. The state will have to vote whether to continue or stop financing pageants in that particular state. But let's remember that pageants, again, are private entities. Pageants do not necessarily have to rely on state funding or national funding. They can also use the public or private donors to donate money for the production of the pageant. So I don't think that should be a problem at all. I mean, it's done in the United States all the time. I mean, state pageants always constantly struggle to search for sponsors. So yeah, if the state decides to stop funding state pageants, and if the majority of the residents of that state, agree to stop funding the pageants, then fine. That's their prerogative. However, it's not very unusual at one point that state pageants or even cities or towns actually did sponsor or are still probably doing sponsoring beauty contestants. I mean, I can think of, let's say, the city of Manizales, Colombia, who for years have sponsored the pageant called Reina Internacional del Café, or International Queen of Coffee. I don't know if that pageant still exists, but I mean, for decades, the city of Manizales, Colombia did sponsor that pageant. And of course, we know, in the Philippines, the world's biggest pageant country, every town, every city, or even barrio crowns its own beauty queen, who is partially or fully sponsored by the local government. So it's not very unusual, for a beauty queen to be sponsored by the local government. Beauty pageants have always been very popular in Mexico, I mean, for several decades. So imagine Mexican pageant fans expressing their sadness and disappointment to this news, as beauty queens of their country have actually done exceptionally well internationally. And guess who's not a happy camper? Lupita Jones, the first Mexican woman to have won Miss Universe in 1991, and is currently the director of Mexicana Universal, the Mexican organization that sends Mexican representatives to Miss Universe and other international pageants. So a couple of days ago, Lupita posted on her Instagram account, and I'm going to quote just a few lines. And she said, "Since then, my life has been dedicated to generating spaces and maintaining a platform that provides Mexican women with the necessary tools that allow them to confidently and courageously face any challenge that comes their way in life, not just the beauty contest. I have witnessed and actively promoted a transformation in these platforms in our country. I have always said that platforms like Miss Universe have represented the women of every era. Over the course of 68 years, it has evolved not once, not twice, many times more, to adapt to what the same woman has been demanding throughout history. Trying to designate these platforms as symbolic violence seems to me completely wrong and without any foundation. How can training, forming, mentoring, and strengthening women be considered violence against women, both internally and externally? Teach her to cultivate her self-esteem, self-confidence, and security. Provide her with professional opportunities so that she can stand out in what she's passionate about. Where is the violence? I think Deputy Frida Alejandra Esparza, that is not possible to legislate from ignorance and personal prejudice." A longer version of Lupita's statement is actually posted on her Facebook page, where she also says that pageants boost the country's economy, as it involves employing talents such as choreographers, camera crew, makeup artists, stylists, gown designers, fitness trainers, interview coaches, walking coaches, choreographers, social media director, etc. I mean, I couldn't agree more with Lupita. I mean, if Mexican women are free, they should be allowed to compete in pageants as a vehicle to advance in life. I mean, if Mexico is a free country and believes in free enterprise, then it should actually further encourage pageants or any type of activity that seeks to improve the status of Mexican women. And more importantly, the government shouldn't have any business dictating to women how they want to live their lives or what they want to do in their lives. I mean, to me, that's the real symbolic violence against women. What do you think? Comment below.